My BFF wants her dad to walk her down the aisle, even though he killed her fiance's parents. Part 1. When I broke to 8F say her dad Dan 58M killed her fiance's parents. I don't mean literally. There is a lot of history here. I'm gonna go over it as much as possible, without making this too long. Kristen 27F and Chris 28M met 5 years ago. They dated for 2 years when he proposed and they moved in together. At their engagement party was the first time the families met. Everything seemed fine and all parties appeared to get along. Well, apparently some of them got along too well. This all came out a year later. Dan and Chris's mom Kate 55F were having an affair. Not excusing either party. I know it takes two to tango, but all the evidence shows Dan started it. He initiated contact. He was the first to send an inappropriate message. He booked the first hotel room and so on. Kristen's mom straight up divorced her dad and moved. Kristen has always been a daddy's girl, and in some weird ways took his side in the divorce, which created a rift between her and her mom. Mom has been completely hands-off during this whole 2 years. ND is only coming to the wedding as a regular guest. A few days after the news came out, Chris's dad Ernie died from a massive heart attack. From what I've heard, he was Chris's hero. His dad was always there for his family. Chris was spending time with his dad in those days, and him just being absolutely distraught with grief. Chris immediately blamed Dan and Kate for his dad's death. He went full no contact with his mom. Kate kept trying to get in touch with him, and pushed to work this out. Chris's younger sister Leslie kept telling her to give him time, but she wouldn't listen. From what I understand, Kate had her own mental breakdown after Ernie's death. She was apparently self-medicating and drinking quite a bit. 2 months after Ernie's death, Kate, in desperate attempt to talk to Chris, ambushed him at work. It got really ugly with Chris telling her she was dead to him. She would never see a grandchild from him, never be in his life again, along with some choice names. Kate went home and called Leslie to vent, only to get chewed out again for not listening and showing up at his job. Then Leslie said she was done trying, and didn't want to see her either. That night Kate went on an especially heavy bender and died from an accidental overdose. Chris had permanently lost both parents in 2 months because of Dan. This obviously almost ended Kristen and Chris's relationship. They decided to give counseling a try, and in the 10 months following got back on track and began the wedding planning. Chris's one caveat through all of this is that Dan is gone from their lives forever. Kristen agreed to this in counseling. This last year, as her best friend and maid of honor, has been really trying. Unfortunately, Kristen is a bit of a Britazilla. Not quite totally awful, but annoying and unempathetic enough to have me questioning our friendship. I have been doing my best to help with the preparations. However, I have my own problems. About 5 months from wedding day, my husband decided he was divorcing me after 2.5 years. I'm not going to get into that now. I just want you to know what kind of mental state I'm in when this all turns crazy. Now to the Britazilla parts. First off, she is one of these brides that has had an image of her wedding since she was like 13 and is determined to make that happen no matter what. So this is a small destination wedding in Jamaica. It was supposed to only be bride, groom, for bridesmaids, for groomsmen, originally for parents, but we're down to 1 now, and about 12 other assorted guests like spouses and a few choice friends. I tried to tell her it would be best to just have the wedding here in the States, especially given everything that has happened, but she didn't listen. I've been tied up trying to help organize makeup, hair, dresses, Texas for Jamaica, while at the same time getting fucking divorced. I have gotten very little sympathy from Kristen during this. She is always like, I know, I'm so sorry for you. I will absolutely be there for you every day. It's just this wedding. I just need to get through it. Yada yada yada. Anyway, I'm pushing through. Well, here's where the biggest problem comes in. About 1 month prior to the wedding day, Kristen decides she needs her dad walking her down the aisle. I know she was planning that the whole time, even if she didn't say it. She decided to bring this up to Chris, saying in her dream wedding she has always pictured him giving her away. Then we can go no contact. It's just this one day. Chris freaks out understandably. He says absolutely no way. They fight for an hour about this, until finally Chris just says, fine, you can have him walk you, but it will be at your next wedding, because this one is off. Chris leaves and doesn't come back. Kristen has a meltdown and starts calling me. She had decided that the day of my divorce finalizing was the day to this, so I was not exactly available. After about 6 hours, she shows up at my new one-bedroom apartment, me a total mess. I tell her she needs to start trying to call him. He ignores her for 2 days before we track down where he's at. They talk. She swears he is cut off, and that this was just her being crazy before the wedding. He gives her another chance, and the wedding plans continue. I'm not going to lie, I was kind of hoping the wedding was going to be off, but a few weeks later we all boarded a plane for Jamaica, and quite possibly the greatest shit show in the history of weddings.